Quick. Okay. So how you doing tonight? Do you want us to call you Jayden or John?
Whatever you prefer. Jayden works usually because that's what I go by for the most part online. So yeah.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. I'm Jared. Okay. This is Dave. So how you doing tonight? You Jayden or John? Okay.
Just whatever you prefer. Jayden.
So how you doing tonight? You Jayden or John? We're gonna have a little.
Whatever.
All right. Sounds Gotta good. Shut off all the dang. Good. All right. I'm Jared. This is Dave. So how you doing tonight? You Jayden or John? Okay. Which one are we? Just whatever you prefer. Jayden. So how you doing tonight? You Jayden or John? We're gonna have a little. This is our first time using a new program.
Oh, nice.
And
right, I'm Jared. This is Dave.
Okay.
So how you doing tonight? You Jayden or John? Okay.
Is this gonna go on forever? This is our first time using a new program.
Oh, nice.
And
right, I'm Jared. This is Dave.
Oh, that's going to be lovely.
Yeah. Ignore the first part of the show again. First time using a new program.
All right.
Okay. Okay, I think we made it through it. All right. So, we invited you on to, you've got a heck of a story going on right now.
Yeah.
We've had your brother on a few times, and we kind of want to, I don't know. I want to kick it off. You were a speed skater, right?
Yeah, I trained for around like 15 years. I stopped around 2018. So I did long track speed skating, which is they're longer blades and they have like clap at the end of it. So it kind of hinges at one point so you can get like a better extension.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Now, were you training for the Olympics or?
Yeah, I trained for the Olympics for probably, that was my goal for like 5 years. Like at the beginning, for the majority of it was more so world games, because in inline speed skating, that's all you could really compete for is world trials, because they didn't have it for the Olympics.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, what caused you to stop training for that?
A lot of things. I would say maybe like one of the biggest ones for me at the time was more so we're debating whether or not I should take steroids and continue, progressing or to, stop. Because for me, it was like, that's a kind of like a moment in your life where you can't go back. And I just know so many athletes who I've seen take steroids, and I didn't know if I wanted to be like a part of that in a sense, and sort of circumventing the system. I couldn't get there off of like pure natural ability. So I decided to say, hey, I'm going to go and pursue a career and build my life. So that's basically what I did, because I had to put all of that on hold.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is true in those professional sports.
You can't pursue a professional career in sports like that without taking some sort of an enhancement, right? Am I correct in that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. It seems like there is a lot of that use is pretty much everywhere. It is what it is. And so you gave up speed skating. Then what did you do?
Yeah, I gave up speed skating. I actually had a part-time job over the summer in a sales career for shipping. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to go pursue that. I knew the VP there pretty well, and I became basically like a shipping consultant in a logistics company. So 3PL, if anyone knows what that is.
What kind of shipping? You're talking over the road or?
Yeah. So freight shipping. Yeah, freight shipping. So basically we would broker out not our trucks, but other freight carriers. And we would give them like companies like a system to utilize that as their third party system to like get competitive rates with like these major carriers. Like you see those big semi trucks on the road, those are the shipping trucks that we would coordinate from like point A to point B to different like manufacturers, if that makes sense.
Okay. And then you got into activism. What drew you into that?
Well, actually, when was the first time you actually felt like a political ting to your lifestyle? Like I remember when I started feeling slightly political at like age 25, but what was it exactly that you focused in on politics in your life? When and what?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably not till 6 months ago, to be honest with you, because for me, even when I started to go out there and be an activist, which was about a year ago or so. So like that's like in May, like the beginning of like the George Floyd movement is when I started to be out there on the streets, and sort of like put myself in that atmosphere, not really understanding like anything politically. I was never like I guess huge into politics at that point, but I felt like sort of like a pull from people around me, from people placing like a stigma on me and saying like I should be this, I should be that. So I like started to like gain a better understanding of like what was going on and kind of where I fit into like the political spectrum.
So you essentially started out, correct me if I'm wrong, but your activism started out just on the BLM terms and then moved political about 6 months ago?
I wouldn't say BLM and specifically. Yes, it was like something of awakening on like the police brutality of George Floyd's death. Like that was something for me. Like I wanted to understand more because I really didn't know anything about it. But then for me, it was more of activism on like a corporate environment because I had to go through like EEOC litigation and fight like racism and discrimination in the workplace. And so like I won that dispute with my former employer. And then so that prompted me to like, hey, I need to advocate for change to help other people within these corporate environments to be feel safe and feel like they can work there with no pressure at all on being harassed on like the color of their skin or even like I would say religion too. So like that for me was like a big driving factor in my activism in the beginning for sure.
Now, was this at the shipping company? You had a equal opportunity and compliance?
Due to legal reasons, I can't really speak on the specifics, but yes, we can say it's around that.
Because usually when you're touched, they make you sign that.
Yeah, they have a non-disclosure.
Yeah.
But
he patted your backside.
Yeah. No, I left the shipping company probably 2 years before I actually finished on that deal. So I worked at a healthcare place, so CHC Healthcare, and I worked directly with like doctors at hospitals and clinics, kind of like locum tenens, if anybody knows, like that's just like temporary staffing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you started out maybe not quite on BLM, but kind of on police overreaction.
It was just, to be honest with you, it was not even like the police stuff that got me started. Like I didn't know about George Floyd or like specifics on George Floyd till like 2 months after that happened, so through me going out there and being around these BLM protests, I understood like what it was about. Right. But for me, it really drove on like sort of the racial discrimination part. That's really where I started. BLM, I would say, is just like sort of a byproduct of me being around them and like people saying, oh, well, you're advocating for everything they believe in. Yes, I do think there's police misconduct and violence, but I also have to say like that doesn't happen. Like not every police officer is worthy of that stigma either. So I guess maybe hopefully that clarifies a little bit.
Yeah.
Have you yourself experienced an extreme moment of racism before you became political?
Yeah, I mean that would be the EEOC stuff. I mean, that was like definitely hurtful for me. I can tell you, like many nights I would come home from work and I would just be like lying in bed and just so much frustration. Like I don't know if you've ever gotten so mad that the back of your neck just like heats up, right? Like for me, like that's how mad I was. Is like, why are you treating me this way? Like it doesn't make sense. Like I at first attributed that to me being new in the workplace, I need to like sort of like own my rights. You know what I'm saying? Like, and earn my place. But then I became the best sales representative there, and they were still treating me that way.
I had that experience when a girl told me I was too short to date. Seriously, yeah, it pissed the crap out of me.
I'd be mad too. But no, I mean, all serious. No, that's kind of where I got into like activism. But it definitely grew as I saw like sort of people being treated differently, not in our own state in Utah, because you guys are from Utah, right? Or
yeah,
where are you from?
Yeah, we're up here in Tooele. Well, Dave's originally from New York.
Yeah, I'm from upstate New York. I'm a military guy. I've been all over the world. And
oh, nice.
seen a lot of this good stuff first.
So you've seen worse off places.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yes. Yeah, I would say we're both veterans. We both seen the fun times of that, and we've both. I mean, I know my time in the military, I have seen racism come in both directions, as you will in the military. But I would honestly say that I never saw anything too extreme. I did have a first sergeant one time that crossed the line a few times, and he got in a little bit of trouble over it. But this was back in 96. So he was a black first sergeant that our black company commander actually came down and had to pull him aside. And I was the colonel's driver, so I kind of caught wind of it. And then I'd seen it from the other direction as well, It is there, but it really isn't that common.
Yeah.
It's an uncommon thing, which I think makes it feel more egregious when you do witness it, because of how uncommon it is. If it was something you saw and heard every day, I think you would grow numb to it. But so maybe that's a good sign that it feels more egregious. But anyway, so you when you went out initially with the protests, you didn't have even a BLM view. What drew you to go out to the protests initially?
Yeah, I mean, the first protest I stumbled on was the George Floyd riot that happened in Salt Lake City, where they flipped a police car and the bow and arrow guy, like they beat him up and flipped over his car. You guys know that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the first one I ever went to, but that was just by happenstance. Actually, I just was riding my motorcycle downtown because I had a motorcycle club called Salt Lake City Riders, and I just happened to like come across a whole bunch of people in the streets, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I had GoPros on my helmet and stuff, and on my bike, and so I ended up recording and documenting that, posting online, and that was kind of like my first experience of just like, oh, well, this is crazy. It got a lot of views on YouTube, and I was like, well, maybe I should just start recording more of this stuff. And so I kept going out there and doing that. And then I kind of fell into like talking to these people and them asking me to come out and like speak. And like, that's kind of how like I grew into it a little bit more.
Okay. So it was a progression of witnessing it, then kind of getting involved through the connections you made, and then kind of becoming a spokesperson for it. And I know you of course you went to the January 6th DC, and you went up to Portland a few times and traveled around. What did you feel like your I guess objective was then? What did you feel like you were out to try to accomplish then?
Well, by traveling?
Yeah, when you were going up to Portland and that, because let's face it, in my opinion, that stuff that happened up in what was it, Seattle, at the Chode was dog shit. They killed a couple teenage boys, and no one's accounted for that.
I mean, they killed a black man, so
they were two teenage black men or boys. They were children. Mm-hmm. What was it, 15 and 13 or 15 and 16, something like that? They gunned them down. I think they counted over 200 shell casings on the ground from the firing positions, and there's no accountability for that. And then the people who run it, well, first of all, I know we've got a couple of listeners who are anarcho-communists and think that this flowery world will appear. No, it will happen just like it did up there. A warlord will take over.
Yeah.
Just how it'll go.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. A warlord took over. And then when those guys shot those teenagers, I'm sure people said, well, wait, we don't want that. And they said, oh, we'll deal with it in-house. You know?
I mean, I agree. I mean, up there in Seattle, it's just like, I can't really tell you that it's like condonable. Like that type of actions, I can't get down with. And I mean, I don't think anybody should be down with killing somebody. And I don't believe that those type of people stand for Black lives, you know? Like if they are saying Black Lives Matter and like we're out here for like Black liberation, it's not true. It's completely not true. I've seen it time and time again.
I think it's
a moment of opportunity where someone can insert themselves for power, and fame, and you know, I mean, I don't know, it happens fame, everywhere.
Power, I think it's vitriol, infamy. Vitriol of youth. They've lost guidance. They've gone to college and had their head filled with some notions that are.
I mean, you don't even need to go to college to gain that kind of.
That's true. You learn it
warlord mentality.
You learn it in elementary school now.
Well, I can tell you this based on like my experience out there and experience with a lot of anarchists that are. I mean, I guess anarchist isn't the right term, but let's just say Antifa. I mean, there's specific groups that are organizing. Yeah. So
Antifa's. When the FBI director says it's an idea, he was correct. But it's also a loose organization, the same way that post-Afghanistan Al-Qaeda was Al-Qaeda. Mm-hmm. They were a loose organization that kind of had the same ideals, the same motivations, but they operated in cells.
And we also helped fund Al-Qaeda and train them and provide them with weapons so that they could further their goal. I mean, it wasn't like they were just there and then all of a sudden gained power. They needed to be watered. They needed proper nourishment. They needed the external boost. And I think that's exactly what our enemies have learned from us.
I think we've gotten off the point. But anyways, I don't think you witnessed it. We never witnessed it. So I don't think we need to educate you on the dog shit that went on up there. But what was your you moved along, and I've watched a handful of your videos now. I don't know, 15 or so of them. And you know, I've listened to your message, and you can tell in your videos your message changed. Your thought process changed. So it seems like when you're recording something and you're closer to it, you have a more
visceral experience.
Yeah, more your attitude's more direct, and as you pull away, you become more thoughtful about it and thinking about it. And I suppose that's only natural, but
what was your lesson learned from that particular experience when you went there and saw that
in Seattle? I mean, so there's a group called Seattle Youth Liberation Front, and that's that's just one of the organizations. And so to get straight to the point on that, I mean, they're the people that people are having issues with, even the Black community. They're all having issues with them. There are a whole bunch of white kids running around. Majority of them are homeless. I can tell you that. They live on the streets. I've been out there where I'm just like in the middle of the night, like I'm talking, these people stay up to like 4 a.m. in protest, and like they live on the streets and they have nothing better to do but do exactly what they're doing. And which is insane to me that they just get away with it. I'm not trying to, denounce homeless people, but I can say, that they're just out there being violent because they want to go and smash a store. Like they want to go and burn a building.
Do you think they're angry at the system, or they're just an old term, they're just wilding?
I think they're truly angry at the system. I think they are. But I also can say that, a lot of them are ignorant to a lot of the pure facts of what the system is and how to go about changing it. I mean, I just can't get around, like, if you guys don't even know about any legislation that's being passed in your state, like how are you being aware of specifically how you're going to bring about action? Let's say they do want to bring action through the direct action of protesting, right? Which is a form that they use. Well, tell me, if you don't know what legislation is going down, let's say you want to do a direct action, how are you going to specifically say, hey, I want this to change that? My action is going to change this. Like, this is what I seek to change if I want this bill repealed or not, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah.
Well, did you get a chance to really know these people? I mean, like, would you say a majority of them had troubled youths?
I mean, that, as far as getting to know them, that part, like their childhood, their family, not in that way. That's not something they really talk about. If you're talking about getting to know them as like on an individual basis, like their living situation, what do they like? What do they do? That I got to know a little bit more. But as far as like family and stuff, it's not really like talked about.
Are they homeless locally or mobile homeless that ended up there?
They're homeless locally. Not everyone's homeless, but they're homeless.
But the ones that are.
Yeah, they're homeless locally. Yeah.
Okay. And this isn't to denigrate homeless people, obviously. There seems to be a special flavor that comes in the Northwest that's that I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a lot of the communist vibe that comes out in violent action and everything else. And then, they seem to react that way, but they definitely have gotten stronger the last, probably since that G20 up there that went down. When was that? In 2005?
I think all the G20s always get a little rowdy.
Yeah, but this one, they kicked off and it stayed that way. So what are your political, let's just dive into it. What are your political leanings right now? What are you trying to be active for? What are you looking to achieve?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think less government control. I think the government has a lot of control right now. I would say that, transparency is good also within the system. I mean, if we're going to talk about something, think about January 6th. Think about that and how all the people are getting basically, hung for some of them, just minor things. Like maybe they just walked into the Capitol, right? I'm not a big advocate for people, for Trump, but I can side with the people and their frustration. Like, they're not being heard at all. They're actually just being punished and they're being scrutinized and they're not just being listened to. So like, I would like more of that, lesser change and sort of the government's hand in your life and really bringing back sort of like our freedoms as American citizens and freedom of speech as well. Because, like, to be honest with you, think about all the social media suppression. You can't get a message out there that is true and honest without it being shut down. Second, like, they recognize that it's somewhat of the truth. Like, they could immediately just nuke your account and nuke that post and erase you off the internet.
I had a guy on the ground January 2nd that I was going to bring onto the show. And he told me, look, I don't feel comfortable. They're hunting us down. He'll tell me what happened from his perspective, like one-on-one, but yeah, these people are afraid. These people are being hunted down. And I mean, it's almost like kind of like Jews in Germany and back in the 1930s, maybe not as aggressive, but definitely the technology to catch them is a lot more efficient.
Yes.
Yeah. It's, well, when you say less government control, what do you, now the media censorship is, I mean, we can jump down the conspiracy hole of this, that Facebook and Google were set up by the CIA and that was their end. But if we just go flat out, government control, what do you want to draw back on? What are your prescriptions?
I mean, people
just
don't.
If you had a dream list, let's say 5 actions you could have done tomorrow.
It's a good question.
What would you shoot for?
I would say gun control is a big one for me. I'm very Second Amendment. So
which angle on gun control?
He said he's very Second Amendment. So you're pro-gun. Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you have done with that? Do away with the what is the FFA or the Federal Firearms Act?
Yeah, I would say that would be a good place to start. I think Utah has like the freest gun laws out of a lot of places. So I mean,
yeah, we're quite good.
Yeah, I mean, we can conceal carry now without a permit. So I mean, here's pretty ideal for the entire country. I feel like to get to that standpoint would be great as well, so people can protect themselves. Otherwise, you can't protect from anybody, right? Like the government can come after you. So I would say that that's a huge thing for me. I would say for me, demilitarizing the police, I've seen like too much, like a lot of like unnecessary equipment work. Not saying that taking away money from the law enforcement, I'm saying reallocating it into the proper areas in law enforcement, like funding training so that they can be better equipped for things on the field where, you know, sometimes they only get like 2 weeks of firearms training. I don't find that acceptable when you're carrying a gun around all the time. I guess for me, like those are kind of like the bigger items that I would like to see change. Also, maybe I would say more of like I guess regulation within like the judicial system, right? Because like right now people are being sort of prosecuted and can be held without bail, right? Or held without bail for until their court date, and they might be not guilty, right? They might be not guilty, and now they're sitting in jail for an entire year. I don't find that acceptable at all. If you're innocent until proven guilty, you shouldn't be sitting in jail that long. You shouldn't. Now, if you murdered somebody, that's a different situation. But I'm talking about like probably like a minor crime.
Murdered someone if you're not yet prosecuted, you're not judged.
True. But I mean, like if somebody has a video, you pulling the trigger on the guy, you know, that could be like disputed in a sense, you know. But I'm talking about things that are like unheard of, you know, where people are sitting in jail for a long amount of time. And especially when COVID is going on right now, I know people who have been, myself included, have had a trial for almost a year and a half. That is not, you're not getting your rights, right? Where is my right to a speedy trial? That's just not happening. And it doesn't matter if COVID's here. It doesn't, the Constitution, your constitutional rights are still in place. And so they're totally ignoring that. So, I mean, maybe more so now in COVID that I feel like, you know, they're taking away what our freedoms and liberties are, and they're slowly just like stripping those. Now you got to stay in home, right? Now you can't go out. Now you can't open your business. I say people can conduct their business, but, you know, they got to implement the correct safety procedures. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys are, you know, for COVID or against COVID, mask, whatever, but I can tell you like, if it gives me an option to like say, hey, wear a mask, I'll wear a mask, but don't close down my business. You know?
Yeah. Utah fared pretty well on that, except in Salt Lake County, I think was the only place that was truly hit by that. So I
just got back from Hawaii, and let me tell you something. Their economy was devastated. The food trucks are out mothballed in the parking lots. The airport was just opening up as I was coming in, and well, look at dust on the stores.
What happened to all the blue states? The blue states lost congressmen.
Yeah, that's right. They did.
And the red states all gained congressmen.
Did libertarians get anything?
There's no such.
Yeah.
God, I wish. Anyway, so you know, so we've got 3 items on there so far.
Also,
and those could probably be broken down more, obviously, but you know, 2-way, we're gangbusters on that, all involved, all, and then demilitarizing the police. You know, digging it. Me personally, I don't care if the police is militarized or demilitarized. I care about when and why they have to contact people. But we're moving down the same lines there. You know, I agree with you on that. The way the justice system, I think regulating the justice system, I think we've overwhelmed it. We've forced laws that so we've added too much regulation on human beings to make our justice system function. So I think we need to deregulate that. We need to cut it down to what are actually crimes, what are not crimes. I don't think anyone should spend a night in jail for a misdemeanor unless that misdemeanor involves ongoing possible assaults. If it's a misdemeanor assault and the two guys are still pissed off or drunk, there's no reason they can't sleep it off in a cage. You just don't have to keep a record of it. They sleep it off, they're sober, kick them loose in the morning, whatever. There doesn't even need to be paperwork on that. The drug laws, those are all dog shit. They're not doing anything for us.
What do you feel about the war on drugs, John? Jayden?
I think it's ridiculous because people are going to take what they want. So, I mean, you're just putting people in jail, one, who are trying to survive, and that's maybe the only means they know how is by selling drugs. And then two, the people who are possessing the drugs, who are taking them, that's their choice. It's just like cigarettes and alcohol. Like cigarettes are killing hundreds of thousands of people.
Not for very long, because Biden did what Biden does best. Added another law, and I'm telling you, this law is attacking the black community.
Which one's that?
He's going to outlaw menthol cigarettes.
Oh.
Damn, I didn't hear about that.
He's going to outlaw, make them illegal.
Yep.
No kidding. Buy them now. Get them.
What?
I am telling you, go buy a couple of cartons. But I mean, the 94 crime bill, the big crime bill that caused all the major disparities in the drug enforcement between blacks and whites. That's Biden's baby. That's his.
Damn.
BLM went and backed his play, and I'm like, all right, this is your guy.
I'll tell you, BLM doesn't like them either, and neither does it. That's a big misconception. I think BLM and Antifa, they just don't like government. They just don't care.
Okay, they may not like government,
yeah,
but every one of them said, get out and vote Biden.
Now we will hopefully have an opportunity to talk to Lex from Salt Lake City next week, who is head of the Salt Lake City BLM chapter, and we can ask her these questions because I think these are important questions to ask them. Maybe they've retracted on some ideas after they saw the Biden policies in place, maybe, but it's hard to get that side of the aisle to come out, talk to us, and give us these straight, direct answers to which you're giving us right now, Jayden. And I just want to give you kudos for that because, at first we're like, wow, he's going to come on and talk to us. We're on totally different aisles, totally different spectrums of the aisle. But as we come face to face with each other and we start to communicate, look, how many ideas have we disagreed with so far? I mean,
true.
I think us peasants, have more in common with each other than the elites. I have more in common with the normal people of Iraq than I do with the George Bushes and the Bill Clintons and the elites of America. Let's just face it. We do.
True.
Very true.
So we got two more items to insert on that list. What's number?
Yeah, we got 3 items out of you.
4.
What else would you prescribe? I mean, if you were your dream 5.
That's a good.
You're going to send it to the Fair Government Olympics.
I don't know. For me, I feel some type of way when I don't know if there's anything else other than smaller regulations. Now they're trying to put in things for banning protests and the use of megaphones. And here in Salt Lake City, you can't use megaphones while you protest. I don't care if you're on either side. That just doesn't.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you should be able to use megaphones. I came out thoroughly. I don't think you should be able to block roads or block sidewalks. You want to stand on the curb, hold any sign you want. You can wear fishnets and suspenders, have a megaphone, have flashing lights, whatever. I just say you do not impede someone's movement.
Correct.
I'm just big on that. Don't get in the way of people driving. One, you endanger yourself, as those 2 ladies found out up in That was up in Washington as well, right outside of Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you endanger yourself and you endanger them. And that's just my thoughts on it. Get out of the way. You know, matter of fact, when the light goes red and the crosswalk sign comes up, if you want to hug that white stripe that people walk next to on there and wiggle your signs, wiggle it, and then get the fuck off the road.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You know?
I agree. I think for me, it's like, I think you can protest on the road as long as you don't block traffic. As long as like you're allowing traffic to flow, I think that's okay.
Stand on the curb, stand on the gutter. But see, here's my thoughts on it. It does two things. One, it turns people away from your cause. There's the big thing. You know, when you're protesting, you want people to join you. So you want to look as sympathetic to them as you can. And if you're stopping them from getting to work, you're not looking very sympathetic. Matter of fact, at that point in time,
you're creating enemies.
Yeah, the police officer swinging his nightstick looks a lot more sympathetic than the guys blocking the road.
Mm-hmm.
Two, let me think. Georgia, 2 years ago, old man died of a heart attack in ambulance waiting through a protest. In 94, in LA, a 4-year-old girl died in an ambulance waiting for the protest.
Damn.
That's just 2 deaths. Both of them black. On black protests.
Damn. That's crazy to me.
And those are just facts. You just lay them out.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I have issue. That's why I like don't block the flow of traffic because you don't know what people need to get somewhere. That's obvious. I mean, there is a point where sit-ins are useful, where it's like making a statement. And so, I mean, I would say, look how useful Martin Luther King's tactic was. I know like people like to use him a lot, but like he did do things that would, I mean, I guess you would frown on in a sense, right?
What would I frown on?
I don't know. He definitely blocked traffic. That's for sure. And he definitely
the only time they blocked traffic was when they were marching. They were moving.
Oh, okay.
They
so
got
is that
permits for it? No. What Martin Luther King did is he went out there and got sympathy. He turned the white man to his cause because if you were anywhere near it or you turned on a TV, you couldn't help but witness the brutality that got brought down on them while they peaceably protest. They didn't even, the only true protest they did was when they didn't ride the buses. Other than that, they just marched arm in arm.
Yeah.
They didn't yell at anyone. They didn't stop anyone from moving. They didn't aggravate people. You know, they were very respectful and they got attacked doing that.
Yes.
And that turned a nation to their side.
Agreed. Yeah, that's what I agree on. I mean, when people are starting to get violent and like hurting or vandalizing cars, vandalizing stores that's an issue. I mean, that cannot be condoned. You're destroying somebody's hard work in business. But, you know, I mean, those are the things I would specifically change. I mean, I can't really, I gave like 3 big broad subjects I can go really dive deep into.
They are broad subjects. And I think a lot of that would come with, you know, pinpointing down on them. So
what would you change?
Me? Step 1, I would do away with the drug laws. Step 1. Drugs are decriminalized tomorrow, turn that money over to the medical side to deal with that, manage that the way Portugal has. That's step 1. I don't care if the police carry M16s or have shoulder mounted nukes, any of that. We give them no reason to talk to people, no problem. I would do away with a permanent felonious system unless, you know, maybe murder, maybe. And I'm talking premeditated murder. Qualified immunity, I would do away with that. I know everyone points at the police. We need to do away with theirs. But I think the place qualified immunity hits the people the most is in prosecutors.
Yeah.
I would strip that away. And I would make it so that if I like the idea that if law enforcement, if police officers commit a crime, they kind of get extra charges along with that. If they do it in the line of duty, they commit a crime. I would like that extended to prosecutors. I'd like prosecutors to never knowingly enter something false into the record. And that's something we need to look at. Prosecutors kind of slide. because they wear those ties and suits and, get up on cameras and run. But we got to watch out for that.
You would teach the non-aggression principle in schools.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm slowly giving up on that because, sometimes I think you need to be violent and mean first. But either way, I would, but that's what I would do with the police on the law enforcement side. On the other side, I would deregulate. I would start out with pilot programs. You know how Oakland tried to do that pilot program? It got shut down. Had the mayor not gotten involved, it could have kept going, where they were going to give extra money to what do they call it? BIPOC,
Black and Indigenous people of color.
Yeah, right. But where the mayor got involved, that shut it down because the government constitutionally can't do that shit. They can't say who does what.
So what is that? Just like an extra check in the mail every month?
Yes, essentially it was. But it got shut down now. Actually, they just included poor white people in there, but it's going to be it's going to be dead on arrival, I think. What I would do is I would go into communities that are suffering economically. I would have some scientists come up with a scale, right? I would say, let's say average income, gross product, and have an equation to come out with time. And then for that amount of time, this community is deregulated for people who live here, who want to start a business here. And what I mean by deregulated is you no longer need to get a license to be a handyman. You don't need to get a license to do someone's hair. Now, to practice medicine, I kind of want to see a license. To practice law, I would like to see a license, things like that. But the general laborers, if you want to start a newspaper there, a local newspaper, see if it can grow. If you want whatever, deregulate it. We're not going to tax it for whatever time the scientists dream up for us. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. I think we need to figure out how to draw economies into these underperforming areas. I mentioned the felony system. I think anything, we can still have misdemeanors, and that's where hey, you got caught doing this, this is your ticket. Now, obviously, resisting arrest has to jump up into a level where they take you in and fingerprint you and whatever, but they fingerprint you for misdemeanors, but they can still write you a ticket, verify who you are, kick you out. And the reason I do that is because I'd hate to see, say, I'm going to go out and try to get John in trouble or Jayden in trouble. And so I'm going to go out, act a shit brick. And then when the police come up, who are you? Oh, my name's Jayden, and then they write a ticket that's in your name. That's why I want to see that verification done. But that's it. Kick them loose. And I don't even know if misdemeanors necessarily need to have a trial. The fines don't need to be that big.
I would like to make the judicial system more privatized. Everyone's waiting in line for a court date for what you said you were waiting for a year.
I'm still, a year.
Yeah, that's not a speedy trial. That ain't fair.
No.
Well, and if you kick the misdemeanor stuff out, the court system will run a lot smoother.
True.
Maybe. I don't know.
How often?
I doubt it.
How often do you get tied up in court when you've got a speeding ticket?
Yeah. But you got to fight it, though. What if you feel like you're innocent?
Okay. If you feel like you're innocent, then you fight it. Have you ever fought a speeding ticket?
No.
How many have you had?
One.
Okay. Yeah. I've had dozens.
Have you fought one, Jared?
Not a one. I went in, handed him my couple $100, said, thank you, sorry, popped smoke. Nowadays it's different. I'm an old man and humming. But I used to be a young, hothead, drive fast. But, you go in, you pay it, you get out. You don't even see a judge. You see a clerk. You see a lady that's in her 60s, has a chain hooked to her glasses. It's probably got jewels on it. Manager stuff like that.
I guess I would regulate what are misdemeanors now. I'm saying that would have to change. I bet if that were the case, they would shift, what would be a misdemeanor, what would be a felony. And so then you come into that realm.
And that all comes back to teaching the non-aggression principle. I mean, if you're violating property or if you're violating someone's physical aspect of their existence, that's a crime. Yeah. But selling cigarettes on the corner of New York City and getting choked to death, I mean, do you really deserve to get choked to death for selling cloves on the side of a sidewalk in New York City? No. That's the politicians who are saying, you know what, that's my tax income. Those are my cows, and you're milking them and taking that milk back home to your family. No. And what one of the things that I really wish Black Lives Matters would do is get more involved with saying, hey, let's harass the politicians, not the people. Because the politicians are the ones that tell the police officers who to choke on the sidewalk and who not to choke on the sidewalk. And it isn't fuck the police, it's fuck the politicians. The police are just doing, they're just doing what they're told, kind of like the guard in Auschwitz in the tower. It's the actual Nazis in council that make the rules and the regulations of how the farm is to be managed. Those are the people we need to attack.
It's not the grunts,
They need a good spanking.
Yeah. It's not the soldiers.
So how about let's see. After you went to the West Coast, is that when you went to Ogden? After that, is that
Ogden?
Yes.
I never went. Well, I guess what's in Ogden, where I live?
He's thinking the Provo.
Oh, I was like, I'd never been in. I never lived there, but
okay.
Provo. I went to Provo well before that. Well, are you? So you're talking after I went to Portland or Seattle?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I went to that well before that in June.
Provo was kind of where it kicked off, where you started your, I guess, getting involved in the activism, right?
Yeah, just because I was thrusted into like some sort of like position of like my voice being heard in any sort of way. I don't know, that militia formed against me, UCA, and then started coming up at protests, but I felt like an obligation to like speak at that point or like be more vocal. Which, kind of led to me going to different places as well, seeing how things were there, understanding a little bit more.
What was that guy's name who shot that driver?
Jesse Taggart.
Yeah. I'm close friends. I used to work with a guy who worked in the Temple Records office or wherever they worked, somewhere for the church. They worked together, and he was shocked. He was like, that guy was so quiet. How well do you know that guy?
Jesse?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know him at all, actually. Like, I only saw him at protests prior to that just because I've been out there so much. But the only reason I really he resonated with me is because he was driving his house around at protests. I was just like, thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like, he would it's like a big truck with a trailer. His house is a trailer. That's his truck, and he would just block off the intersections. And for me, one thing to know, I never marched. Ever did I march? I was on my motorcycle the entire time in the crowds and with just like GoPros and filming stuff like that. So that's how I knew him, because he would like be blocking off intersections.
Now the media and the story of the the grapevine is that you have somehow influenced the shooting. Can you walk us through how this perception or event took place that somehow you got become the center point of that?
That's an issue.
Not even the shooter, but you.
Yeah, that's been an issue with me. Like, that's something I kind of like struggle with. Like, how does that even like occur? But I think it were like that narrative really started when I guess my brother kind of spoke out and said like, I organized and ordered the hit of the driver, which I'm like, first off, like, what evidence do you have of that? And second off, like, how would you know? Because like I don't talk to him, much less talk about organizing, if that makes sense. And then also, me going out there that day was not a purpose of protesting in Provo. I was recording and live streaming like the entire event, just like I was live streaming the other protests that I did prior. Since I was like the first one in Provo that really like, I don't know, BLM and like a lot of the other organizations decided to say, hey, like, we're going to go out there and protest. And so like, I was like, well, this is something like would be interesting and people will want to see. And so I was just out there with my camera. And then when I guess I got the shooting on tape, and then I posted that on my Facebook, and then everybody started pointing at me as like, you're leading a BLM activist, like you terrorizing the public, like you ordered the hit of the driver or whatever. And I was like, where is this coming from? Like, where's this proof? And then I guess my brother came out of nowhere. Like, I think it was like 3 weeks later, and said that I ordered that hit on the driver. And so I was like, to be honest with you, the Provo Police Department and the people there, they actually liked me a lot. They invited me the next day or the day after that to come and organize a protest because I spoke with them. I was like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on here, but I'll be transparent with you. And so we organized another protest because that militia formed against us. And what happened is they came out in numbers. And so I want to keep everybody safe because like, they're like, well, can you like help us with this, build a better reputation with the community? And so like we organized like security with law enforcement, make sure people were safe because there's other people with guns. And then I invited the side that came to counter protest up to speak with us because I was like, they're just people like we are right now sitting talking, but we haven't had that talk yet. We didn't talk. You don't know me. All it is propaganda in the media. That's all it is. And a misconception on who we are as individuals. And so I decided, hey, let's have that conversation here in a public forum with everybody. And if you don't like it, and there are people who didn't like it, I can tell you that. People did not like that on the BLM side.
What did they not like exactly?
Many people are not, Second Amendment, and some were Proud Boys. I didn't know at the time. I didn't even know what a Proud Boy was at that time, but some were Proud Boys on the other side, came up and spoke. Who is it? Thad? You know Thad, right? No?
Thad.
He's the Proud Boy, got kicked out of the Utah chapter or whatever. He was like standing with BLM in Utah.
No. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Thad is like when I now know him, but at the time he came up and because I just invited everybody over there to speak, he came up to speak. Me not knowing who he was, people were like, "That's a Proud Boy. You can't let him speak." I was like, "I'm not. Like, I don't know who that is. Like, I'm just inviting anybody else to speak." So they got mad at that because they really think Proud Boys are racist. And now, some things they do say I've seen that are pretty racist. But what I can say is that, they got more mad at that than anything else. But
yeah, I don't know if the Proud Boys are racist or not.
I'm sure like everyone has speaking of race, everybody has an ounce of something like that in them. You can't say I accept everything in life. Yeah, we all have preferences. Just like I'm short, maybe group. You might not want to date short guys. There's always going to be something like that to every human being.
That's not a race thing. That's a genetic deficiency.
That's a preference. That's amazing. Yeah,
short people matter.
There's something that was put out on their Telegram chat that was it's literally the Western chauvinists is what their Telegram chat is called. I don't know if
they're Western chauvinists. They believe that the Western culture is the best culture. Now, if you just take that on the face of it, where are you going to argue that?
I wasn't arguing about that. Their belief.
I'm not asking you if you argue it, but where are you going to argue that we have the best culture here?
Oh, that's without a doubt. Like
our culture stands better than the Northern European ones, and we're a diverse nation, and we stand better than that. You just can't argue it.
Agreed. I have more problem. I was just referencing their chat on to be specific on the posts that they put out. Like, and it's not just by like members of the group. It's about like the person who's running the page and specific that speaks for the group as a whole. And it basically talked about like, hate against Jews, not Black people specifically. Like, yes, references some George Floyd stuff and stuff like that. But it also goes into detail on like, on I guess like how Jews should be suppressed more, and I'm just like I just can't understand like where that hate comes from. Like how is that even donut bowl. Like, how can you even talk about that? Like, in the first place, it's one thing to talk about like George Floyd, in your opinion, whether he was like a justified murderer or not.
So,
but
is this guy gonna walk around to everyone he meets? So, Torah, Bible, which one? Gotta fill him out on that first, because let's face it, most of the time you can't tell.
Yeah, you can't tell
Between most of the time. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions.
Do you work for the Federal Reserve?
I don't think it's if you can tell by a first encounter. It's what you do behind closed doors that is more of an issue.
Yeah, I think they're just people like everyone else. I
mean, maybe. I mean, they're definitely people like everybody else, but I don't know.
Because you are the journalist on the ground in Provo during the shooting, and you were proximal to that person, you didn't influence the person to shoot. You didn't say anything to the person before he shot, correct?
That's correct. I was across the street.
So because you posted the media, is that how you gained the focus and attention of the movement?
Literally, I'm telling you, I was across the street with Fox News was standing right next to me. And that's when I saw it go down. I was like, I turned to them and I'm like, did you just see what happened? That guy shot at the car? And they're like, what? No. And I was like, well, you must have it on camera. They're like, yeah, if anything happened, it's on camera. And sure enough, they had it too. So.
Okay. Now, then, what are you on trial for? What's this pending trial?
In Provo? Yeah. I'm for criminal mischief and riot. Yeah.
Okay. And that's from that protest that day or the one the next day? Okay.
Yep.
And what restrictions have been laid on you for that?
None.
No restrictions, just a trial date to be determined?
Trial date to be determined. I mean, we haven't even gotten that yet, and we're scheduled to like have a meeting on that 2 months from now. So,
have you been arraigned?
Nope.
Okay.
And you said that UCA formed because of the Provo incident, specifically because of your actions somehow involved with that. And you said that you've reached out to them to talk to them and say, hey, do we want to have that conversation? Correct?
I would meant more of like the day after we invited everyone in opposition to our group on the other side to come up and speak. But if you're asking if I have reached out to UCA to resolve that, I have. And I think you saw my armed stance at the Utah State Capitol, and where they came out and met me. I mean, that's where we basically had our conversation. Like, you guys need to chill out on your like opposition to us, to me. And like, I mean, they would come out to like every protest with like 300 guns. So I'm just like, or 300 people with guns. I'm just like, I don't see that necessary when people are, I mean, they're not bringing out guns nor being violent in any sort of way. It's more of like
there was no violence when the two of you.
But there was violence in Provo. That's their specific response. And maybe you got shaded with that wrongly, but I can't fault the UCA for saying when an innocent person just driving down the street, had nothing to do with either side, got shot. I can't blame them for saying we're shutting these protests down.
Did that individual get hurt? He got shot, like literally.
He got shot in the shoulder. Yeah.
He got shot in the shoulder. I think it entered his chest cavity.
Oh, okay. I thought the car got shot. I did not realize
the car got shot twice. He got hit once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a bad act. Like, say this: a bad actor comes to your event or protest, and let's say that they do something. Like, are you responsible then because like somebody want to be a terrorist and like come destroy stuff or like cause an issue? I don't know if like that's justified.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
But can you fault the community for saying no?
Well, I can say that where was that response during the big riot in downtown Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake City caught everyone unaware.
Well, there was a guy with a bow and arrow there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. But
but I honestly, UCA started up after that Salt Lake City one.
No, it was Provo.
They said it was Provo.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but the UCA Provo happened after the Salt Lake City one. Salt Lake City caught everyone unaware. No one had any thought of it. Provo, the initial Provo protest caught everyone unaware.
after that shooting, UCA formed. And UCA formed to try to stop that everywhere. And we hear this a lot from protesters. They had a little march up here in Tooele. The march was peaceful, but everyone that was on the BLM side up here in Tooele were mad, saying, well, everyone showed up and was lining the streets. Yeah. Did they stop you from marching? No. Had you gotten out of hand, there would have been complications. But they didn't stop you from marching. They just showed you that march away, protest away, don't damage stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
especially in Minneapolis. My God,
don't try to tear down a statue. Don't try to burn down a building. There was like 2 biker gangs that showed up to it. I mean,
I believe you.
Because the rest of the world, whether they agree with BLM or not, they disagree with actions where it carries out. And now all of BLM doesn't do that. I'll bet 90% of BLM doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. But they ride on the coattails. The 10% do stuff like that.
I mean, you could just attribute it to Antifa.
Yeah,
that's what you want.
Antifa. You can say the same thing with that Unite the Right down in where was that, in Virginia or wherever?
North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that was just right-wing people. It was a very small group that got radical, that were saying those things. Honestly, down there, I think the police should be charged, because the police forced the protesters, which were the right-wing guys, through the counter-protesters, which were the left-wing guys, forced them through there and caused a scene. When the police could have easily said, you guys are going east, you guys stay west, we'll solve it like this. The police, you can watch them, force them through there.
Damn. That's crazy.
And then they wonder why it turns into a cacophony of fun.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that was insane.
I agree. UCA, I'll back UCA's play as long as they just go there and stand armed, drive a fucking tank up. I don't give a shit. Just go there and stand. Just show of force is all you are. As long as they don't impede you from,
your First Amendment
Amendment right, as the First Amendment right is written out, which means you're not going to impede someone else from their right to be mobile. You're not. Agreed. I look at it as, if you block traffic, you may as well be charged with kidnapping.
Agreed. I think it's funny you say that, because like, for me, if like Jesse Taggart was organizing, going out and doing that stuff, 100%, he committed the action, right? Like, he did what he did, and there's no like getting around that. Even though, I mean, he hasn't had his day in court, but we can see in the video he pulled the trigger, right? So like,
yeah, is he sitting in jail right now waiting for his day, or
no? He got bailed out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They gave a guy that blindly shot into a vehicle bail. See, that's where I kind of agree with keeping someone in a cage, I mean, let's free up the cages of the guys using marijuana and heroin and, whatever else. And let's put the guys that show a tendency to kill someone they don't know.
Yep.
Let's keep them in there until we can sort them out.
Well, no, the fucked up part, though.
I disagree with you, but
you disagree with that?
I mean, the guy probably didn't go to the protest thinking, I'm going to murder somebody. Now, a lot of these people have bad days.
You're right.
Bad days.
Bad days.
And look, even in Iraq, I've definitely had my moments where I'm glad I didn't pull a trigger when I might have instinctively wanted to somewhere. But
had you done it,
I still wouldn't be a bad person, because that's just my biological instincts. Who knows? I'd probably be dead. I don't know. But I'm just saying,
that guy,
murder and killing people are totally different.
True.
Totally different.
It doesn't matter. That guy, just blindly pulling a trigger into a crowd, into a vehicle. I mean,
what was going through his head?
I mean,
I don't.
To be honest,
I don't care. He's shown me that maybe he shouldn't try to function in civil society for a minute.
No, to be honest, the bullet could have gone through the car, hit me on the other side of the street.
If a guy rapes dogs, I don't want him running the pound.
But he goes out intentionally trying to catch the dog and hold it down. This guy probably got freaked out about something, maybe got a little antsy. Maybe he's you're right. He probably doesn't function right, but I'm pretty sure this guy didn't go out and say, I'm going to commit murder today, or I want to commit murder or attempt murder. It's different when you're put in a situation. Let's look at the police officer situation. Again, it goes back to that. This is his biological territory. He wants to keep himself safe. And sometimes you shoot everyone around you and kill everybody just to keep yourself safe in that kind of a mental state of being. As the Marines would say, treat everyone nicely, but have a plan to kill everyone you meet and see so you can get out. There is that aspect of a protest. It is like a combat zone in this kind of a setting. And that is one of the dangers of going to a protest, or especially when you let them block the roads.
That guy didn't go to a protest. That guy was driving home from work.
He ended up in the protest. That wasn't his fault. Maybe not his fault.
Okay.
But the other guy attended the protest.
All right, Dave. I'm telling you, the guy who shot the guy, he should sit in a cage. Don't know for how long. Not up to me.
I think he's entitled to bail, but we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, because he's shown a proclivity not to use good judgment.
How much good judgment have I shown in my life?
Have you ever shot someone driving down a road?
No.
All right. Don't find judgment. No,
and if I did, would I admit to it on live air?
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So we've had a few comments come in for you, and you're not a popular guy amongst most of our crowd.
That's okay. That happens.
You know?
Well, hold on. Before we go to comments, though, let's talk more about, because we haven't even gotten to January 6th, right? So
yeah.
But
yeah.
what did you do between Provo, the West Coast, and January 6th? Fill in that gap for me, would you?
Yeah.
Comments come in for him.
A lot. I would say a lot has happened since in between there. I mean, I specifically either went to Portland, went to Washington, Seattle, Washington, or went to DC, and I went to New York once. So all throughout that, I traveled to these different places. One, either to I knew of something that was going to go down and I wanted to capture that on film, or one to go and support the community in the way that I felt I wanted to advocate for, right? Majority of that, I mean, I can tell you I went to a lot of these Black Bloc Antifa style protests while I was out in DC and in Portland, just because that's really what goes down. I would say there are daytime protests that are really peaceful. It's just music and stuff at a park, and they have kids, out there, and they're cooking food and stuff. So it's just a barbecue, so to say. But that being stated, I would say I traveled for 6-7 months straight and just going to these different cities. And I was probably only home for maybe a week or two.
How did you afford to do all this travel and all that?
That's a great question. So initially I was able to work from home. So I was able to just work while I was on the road with the company that I was working for at the time. I worked in cybersecurity, so Proofpoint. So I was able to do that for probably 2 months. But after that part, I actually was just able to live off of journalism. So basically, I went to record and document these events, and I would sell the footage to news crews and news stations local in the area. Mostly, I wouldn't say really any national ones, but more local stations. But that's kind of how I was able to afford to go to these different places. Then gradually I got someone said they wanted to film my life and my activism work, and how, kind of sparked their interest in sort of the divisions in the United States. And so they were like, well, we'll pay for your travel to these places. And that was probably about 3 to 4 months before the DC situation. And so then that kind of helped me through the last 4 months as well.
Okay. So you started doing kind of roaming photographer, maybe not journalist, because you didn't necessarily write about what you saw, but you captured it on
camera,
video, and maybe relayed some of your thoughts and feelings to the actual journalists.
Now, did you have a lawyer to support you when you sell your video clips and go out and gather that footage and make sure it's secured for you and yourself, and not just taken away from you?
Yeah, that wasn't only till later through just experience. That was probably I'll say 5 months in. I mean, I would have to justify me, having that sort of expense. And sort of at the beginning, I mean, you can imagine you ain't making anything, to be honest, like until like you're able to like get that shot. Like one time in DC out the 5th district precinct, some people threw fireworks at a group of bike cops and like blew them off their bikes. That shot I took, I was able to sell to various news channels, but it's like they're not going to buy the peaceful protest stuff. Like they want the crazy stuff. You have to put yourself in harm's way, so to say, almost.
Right.
So yeah.
And by being in that crowd, you're going to also understandably focus your connections with that particular group of people, which is going to highlight you as someone who is supportive of their cause naturally. And yeah, I see how that dynamic can work out for and against you. I mean, it's an interesting career path. I'll say that. I mean, let's face it, that is, it's pretty incredible that you've been able to keep going, because I mean, look at our podcast. We keep going on sheer grit.
Well, no one ever accused me of being very bright. All right. So before we get into them, well, how about first, do you have any regrets through any of your actions that you've had over the last couple of years?
No, I did everything out of like good intentions and good heart. So I wouldn't say I have regrets at all.
Okay. Now, do you want to go through the comments? A lot of them are unhappy.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I like unhappy comments. Let's challenge them.
All right.
We're going to blast you like a fire hose here. Okay, buddy?
BLM and Antifa never sought sympathy. They simply wanted to be disruptive. There's quite a bit of that.
How
I
honest?
think the core movement of BLM had a mission. I think that Antifa's mission prior to disruption ended in 2005.
Damn. I maybe have to rephrase it in a way that I don't know if I can answer that.
Let me try, Jared. So, all right, the statement: BLM and Antifa never sought sympathy. They simply wanted to be disruptive. Now, my perspective is a lot of people get angry when they see the media highlight these George Floyd incidences, and those bleeding hearts come out, and they come out in mass. And then the infiltrators, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's always going to be that intense group of those Antifas that are willing to commit violence and atrocious acts of inhumanity to gather attention and highlight the event that they're infiltrating. And let's say you got a peaceful BLM protest, you insert like 6 of those Antifa guys in there, they Molotov cocktail somebody's shop, and then all of a sudden the whole movement is now considered a hostile group because of those 6 people. And yeah, you see them marching with their fists in the air. It's very dramatic. And let's face it, Black culture is not known for being meek and timid. So I don't know. What do you think of that statement? Give me your perspective.
I think it depends on the area that you're in. I mean, it's going to differ from Utah, from DC to Portland. I mean, Portland is just, there's really no BLM groups. It's all in specifically Antifa and anarchists, like who really want to destroy shit. And don't get me wrong, there's few groups that, are for good causes, but very, very few. DC, there's definitely like a fine mixture for sure. But if you're asking if there are people who are out there like sort of capitalizing or literally is capitalizing or just creating opportunity to like destroy stuff and insert 6 or 5 people in a large crowd to like, cause issues. Yeah, sure. I think that goes without saying.
Let me ask this question. This will clear up a little bit. So I'm hearing all sorts of different rumors that your father was in the military and he was like a ninja or a Navy SEAL, a PSYOP. For the audience, just so we can clear this rumor up, what did your father do for the military?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, for let me say this for people who are saying my dad is a psyops. What's his name? Since you know so much about them, what is my dad's name? Bet you can't answer that. But that's okay though. My dad did not do any of that. He actually flew attack helicopters in the Army. So he did that for quite some time, 20 years.
Flew a helicopter. He can balance a ball on another ball. That's a ninja.
Yeah. So
it's a dangerous job.
It is. I mean, I just think it's funny. People are calling my dad some random dude's name, like some random white dude. I was like, who is this man? You guys know nothing.
Now, that has been a big claim is that you were a psyop, is that you were today's COINTELPRO. You ever heard of COINTELPRO? Yeah. Okay.
Black Panther stuff.
You know what they did, don't you?
Yeah, infiltrated groups, spread lies and division and forged documents, stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, they got the Black Panther leaders of New York and LA to kill each other.
Yeah. I mean, that's insanity. And I don't think, I don't know, not one individual. Plus, let's say this, I'm very public, right? Anybody who's trying to be discreet or spec ops, like they're not doing that.
Maybe. I guess it depends on their mission, but this is an argument that can't be won. If someone's convinced you're that, we can't tell them you're not. And if someone's convinced you're not, they're already on board. So whether you are or not.
Where's the facts though? Like, where's documentation on that? Is it all speculation, not based on like hard facts? That's my question.
It's in the Watergate Hotel.
Yeah, it's hard to get facts nowadays. I mean, look at COVID. I'm of the camp that says China released it upon the population. And then some people will tell me I'm a conspiracy theorist. But you want to know what? I mean, all right, you got to look at this. Do you have the resources to do it? Do you have the desire or the dedication to do something like that? And do you have the ability and capacity to pull it off?
Do you have the means, motive, and opportunity?
Those three elements, I mean, they make up over 50% of the equation from my point of view.
You're right.
And if you got those three elements, I can't argue against your conspiracy theory. I really can't.
Either way, I don't know.
I'm just saying, if you came to me, you said, hey, John, here's the documentation of that your op spec, like here's you getting paid by the government. Here's like you corroborating through like an affidavit where they said you're working together, like sort of like the Proud Boy leader, Enrique Tarrio, like things like that. I would be like, all right, guys.
Wasn't he an informant on drugs?
I just
Florida prior to becoming a Proud Boy.
It was during.
That may have led him into being a Proud Boy after. And wouldn't that be fantastic if the guy the FBI sent to infiltrate the Proud Boys? First of all, the FBI sent a dark-skinned Dominican Republic descent. Actually, no, I think he's Cuban and Dominican Republic, right? Descendant into spy on the Proud Boys. That tells you the FBI didn't feel then that the Proud Boys were a white supremacist organization. But of course, what the FBI says in committee meetings with senators isn't always what they truly feel. I think they say what will make them shine the best to get out of there because they're talking to their bosses. But anyways.
Well, remember the FBI was the one who led COINTELPRO. So if anyone's doing
COINTELPRO was an FBI, psyop.
It was. So think about this. Maybe he was placed there to lead that division and his group was formed around their will to do so.
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is either the FBI sent him in there and never saw him once, said, hey, like over the phone, we want you to jump into this white supremacist group. And he's like Dave Chappelle on that skit going, what? Have you seen me? Or they said, hey, this group, they talk about, freedom and stuff. And we in the FBI don't like freedom, as you know. So, but anyways, neither here nor there. All right. So It says John hates white people, though. That's more of a comment. And
well, look, let him speak for it.
I mean,
what is your opinion about white people, John?
I mean, my parents are white, so
right. You were adopted, right?
Yeah. So if I hate white people, then that's very interesting. It means I hate my parents, which is not true. I love my parents, and I love white women too. So
So are you and your parents still in communication?
Oh yeah, 100%. I talked to my mom and dad today, actually.
Okay. Now you and your brother are not getting along, which has to,
that's sad. It's sad.
It is sad. It is sad.
It's kind of crushing.
Everybody has a family member they don't like, though,
But was it always like this?
100%. Mm-hmm.
Like all through childhood?
You were always conflictive?
Yep. It just grew into something more where I'm just like, I just can't associate myself with you in that way. You drag me into things that I don't want to be dragged into. Like the fact that you're saying false statements about me, like without any specific evidence on it, like that even furthers me to I'm not associating myself with you.
Okay, I am sitting here wondering if this is actually the same person that we have been hearing about for a year.
It's a great comment because I'm starting to feel the same way. I mean, we have so many. We've found cross-threaded political views that we can agree on, and hearing about the devil Jayden X in the media, you wouldn't think that would be possible for us, but here we are. We're talking, we're communicating, we're having a very good dialogue.
This is a cordial dialogue. I am.
And I'm out of beer.
Yeah. You better pour yourself some more head. For the people, listeners out there, I figured out my issue with why I have heady beer, and I will be sorting that out after the show. So, yeah. And a lot of these comments you don't have to respond to. That's just got to be, some of them, I think there's sometimes you can't respond to a comment because it's someone's belief that's in them.
Agreed.
All right. Racism makes no sense to me. It's like it's being said, blaming your little white girl for slavery is like blaming a little Japanese girl for Pearl Harbor. It's all stupid. Well, that is correct. I don't know. It's an argument. And I would love to have someone on who wants to talk about reparations one day. And I don't know who's out there that can talk about it. This is an open call. I want to hear what your ideas on it are. I want to see how it's done.
Well, reparation, I don't really believe in that too much. Black people getting paid for what's been done in the past. I mean,
well, and also, would it fix anything?
No, you work hard for your stuff. Like I do this. I have a firm belief. Like you are what you want to make out of it. Like nor does somebody just give you a handout.
Yeah, and I like. Have you ever heard of Larry Sharp?
No.
Check him out, Larry Sharp, The Sharp Way. He does a podcast and a couple other things.
He ran for governor in New
York.
He
ran for New York governor,
with
Libertarian
the Libertarian
Party. Did actually really well for a Libertarian Party in New York. But anyways, Larry Sharp is he's a black man, ex-Marine. He's got a plan that I think is logical, extremely logical. And he's just saying, let's just, he wants to do something that incentivizes economic growth. So, but check his plan out, look it up. It's online. It's out there.
It's freedom. It's freedom. That's the plan.
And then I want to see it tried. Growth. And then I want to see everyone say, we want what they got, because that is freedom. All right.
I'll look into it.
Ask you about the reporter that was with you during the Capitol breach.
Okay, so Jade Sacker.
So you know what? Can you just let's go straight to that story. We might as well, because we're gonna eventually get there anyway.
Yeah.
Let's
Jade
talk
Sacker,
about
that's her name.
Let's talk about the moment you get. How did you transport yourself to the Capitol that day? Let's start from that point. Just give us the lowdown from your perspective.
Sure. I mean, I transported myself by foot, 15-minute walk from the Hamilton Hotel in DC. So, yeah, I got there, or I started making my way there as soon as I saw a tweet of people breaching the front lawn, which was, probably around like 1 o'clock.
Okay. Before that, were you at Trump's speech that was going on, or was you at the Capitol specifically?
No, so I was at the rally earlier in that day. I was at the rally around like 11:30. Then we went back to the hotel, take a break, and then we saw that. Well, I saw that tweet come through, me and Jade. So I was like, we got to go to the Capitol.
What tweet came through?
So I don't know. Do you have Twitter yourself?
Yeah, I have Twitter. I'm a novice.
I don't know how to use Twitter.
I can get on there and talk shit once in a while, but I have no clue what's going on there.
Fair enough. I mean, I have lists on Twitter. You can like assign certain accounts to a list and like basically make a kind of focal point on what you're trying to like look for through like the Twitter web. So I have a list called DC, basically all the activists or people who are on the front lines in DC for protests. And I saw that someone posted that Trump supporters were storming the grass lawn and they broke down the fence. And so that prompted me to say, hey, time to go.
Because that's where you want to be, is in the middle of the action. You are someone who puts themselves in that kind of situation because that's the job that you chose, right?
Yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, what do you want to see on TV?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to see, someone petting a giraffe or a llama? Or, you don't. I don't think you want to see that. You want to see like politically charged moments. You want to see what really is happening, the shocking moments. And obviously, I have to show the shocking moments of the Capitol, so I had to be right there in the mix.
So you went down there. Now we've all seen videos. They've got mixed videos where sometimes the Capitol Police are waving people in. Sometimes they're being rushed. Was that on depending on what side of the building you're on? Was there mass confusion on all of that?
So all I know is one side of the building at the time. Now I have a better well-rounded view, but on my side of the building, they were just letting people basically walk in. I mean, it wasn't like a resistance that you would meet at every single other protest I've been to. That's not happening for no one's standing down. They stood down. It was crazy to me.
So you think the police just stood down and just?
Oh, they 100%. They 100%. I saw an officer just walking right next to like all these protesters while they were like just going in and smashing the windows. I was like, you do know, like you're here to like protect the people inside the Capitol and protect the property, but you're just allowing them to walk in.
No, you said they were smashing windows, correct? Like physically destroying the windows.
Yeah. This was like right when they breached the front steps.
Okay. All right. We've got was you ever truly an activist or just caught up in the herd? How does someone whose beliefs are right-leaning end up leading these gangs of thugs? I don't know if he's got right-wing beliefs. If you go far enough to the left, their beliefs match the right. 2A,
classic libertarianism.
The far leftist
liberalism.
It's not liberalism. It's the communist side. They're in Germany they were called Spartans. They match the 2A and things like that. It's not talked about enough. It's usually the center is who's, against 2A. But yeah, I guess the question is, were you truly an activist or caught up in the herd?
And this is also your job now. So this is also a career and a belief system mixed into each other. So you're going to have that conflict in life as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's weird because people say that journalists should be unbiased, but journalists have beliefs too. Like, or like people who are like taking photos or just documenting situations, they have beliefs, which I find that very funny. It's whether they insert them into the content that they're putting out where I think it becomes an issue. But what I can say is that I advocate for what I believe in, and that's on my personal time. and which everybody does, regardless. You're going to advocate for what you believe in. Now, mine's more public. Yes.
You're not so much a journalist as you are just you're taking video accountants and giving interviews when that opportunity happens. But you're not saying, you're not given a detailed timeline, it seems like. I mean, you can if asked, from your perspective, but when your accounts go to the media, it's usually through an interview or through the video media that you provide.
So you're saying that it's not like an article written and then it's correct. Yeah. So mine's just to provide, content for whatever news channels to write the article or to produce something around it. And so that for me is like, that's my way of being unbiased, because I can just give you a video with no context in it. Like, it's just, you can't get around it. It's just a video. Like, it's not like I'm inserting myself and building a narrative around it to make you believe a certain way. I'm just here to provide you that footage, and you do with it what you want. You can build it and think about it one way or another. That's up to you.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so
Jared's getting nervous reading some of these.
No, I'm not getting nervous, but some of them I would like to read off the ones
attacks,
yeah.
You can shoot straight. I'm not really like a sensitive person.
I'd like to read off the ones that actually
they're very colorful.
Yeah. So one individual says you're terrorizing the public. You literally are on camera inciting a riot and violence, threatening to to get probably or something the president out of the White House.
Interesting.
Well, if you can get Biden out of the White House, I would appreciate that. I am.
No, this is the funnest I've ever. Jesus Christ, how can you not love this? I will watch every time he's on camera. This is just because the Saturday Night Live doesn't want to touch it doesn't mean this isn't the funniest time to be alive.
Yeah, until all your freedoms are gone and then you're screwed.
So, John, or Jayden, what out of all the candidates on the Democratic side, on the Democratic platform that ran, if you could have chose one to be president, which one would it have been?
Damn, I'm telling you this. Literally, no one. I not even if I had to pick one. Not even if I had to pick one person.
What about the Hawaiian chick?
Yeah, Tulsi.
Man, I'd have voted Tulsi.
Nah, I'm just saying, like, all of them are. I feel like they're not speaking for the people. Everybody, too many people.
Do. You're not going to get someone that speaks for the people in that up there.
Why not?
It's not going to happen.
That ain't going to happen.
Because that's how it should be, right?
It should be, yeah, but. There's, how many arguments? And then, let's look at this. All right. Oh, I'm going to offend some people today. Maxine Waters is a congresswoman. That's all I have to say. She is filthy rich over one of the poorest communities in the nation. And she keeps getting in there.
Oh, I wonder why.
Break that down for me.
Well, elections don't exactly happen.
Honestly, she's been in there for how many years? We're going on 36 or some shit like that.
King George couldn't even rule England that long, could she? Could he?
She's a fucking vampire and retarded.
she's
and
drinking.
They keep putting her in there. She's got what was the guy who ran against her last time? Some enlisted Navy man.
And he was black too.
Yeah, black,
and
whatever.
He had a great platform. I thought what he said was like, oh yeah, that reaches me.
Maxine Waters. I can understand AOC. I can understand her. But Maxine Waters, have you ever seen someone trip on their jaw so often? Jesus Christ. All right.
Next.
Oh, she meant RIP the president. So were you on video threatening to RIP the president out of the White House?
To rip President Trump out of the office? I mean, that was a speech I gave, yes. If it was literal, it was more. It's more of a figure of speech, show that you're unsatisfied with the current structure.
Now, what was your issue with Trump specifically?
Oh, I mean, I just think a lot of his comments and inciting people to like do things was not in line with what I view a president should be. It should be more uniting people, and I've seen too many people like be hurt because of it.
How about his actual actions?
His actual actions?
Into what he actually did,
like building.
Especially if you're a black activist, this is one thing. The black activists, they should have looked at what he did.
I mean, I guess what did he do? I feel like he did nothing for the black community specifically. Bullshit. But that could be me. That could be me in my ignorance.
Because you didn't look into it, and your media didn't educate you.
I don't watch. I don't watch mainstream news.
You know, really. my dream plan of easing regulations in those poor communities.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing that.
I mean, I just don't understand that's like why, how is that being done?
Because he just eased regulations in there. That's why you had the highest black employment ever.
Like at what time? What time in his presidency does that like that? I mean, there's an all-time high in employment overall.
Until COVID. Yeah.
I mean, look at the way the economy was running.
You can go look at it. He had the highest black employment ever.
Yeah, but that's because the economy was doing well overall. So did all the other ones go up equally? You have to look at that statistic.
When it was doing well under Clinton, it didn't do well. When it was doing well under Kennedy, in the boom years, under Kennedy, it wasn't doing well. Kennedy was an explosion. Under Eisenhower, granted, there were a couple of laws. And then the socialists really got in there through LBJ, you know, and they didn't do well then. They didn't do well under Obama. During his recovery, no one did well except for the coasts. But Trump worked towards them doing well. He didn't. So when people say things you don't like, you've got to pay attention. What are they doing?
Here's the thing. You're saying they're doing well economically. There's a lot of other things that you can that is a judgment of doing well. Yes, he did well economically, but he's a businessman. He ran businesses for years. So of course he knows how to make sure that America's running in that area and in a well-rounded machine. Have you read Trump's book, The Art of the Deal?
No.
Yes.
I have. And that's saying a lot because I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not, but I still read it because
I'm not either.
But well, that's good, I guess. But what I'm trying to say, I educate myself on his motives and like how he operates, because it only shows ignorance if you're going to hate on somebody because you don't know what they're about and how they run. But he built businesses for years. He built since he was a kid, he like built a skyscraper, you know what I'm saying? And he has a Trump Tower. So he built an ice rink in New York City, one of the first ice rinks. That's saying a lot in his sort of entrepreneurial spirit and being able to fine tune, you know, the economics of America. But it does not mean that he's good in other areas, which, you know, did kind of come out in confrontations between the left and the right. For me, it was not about the policies that he did to make America economically strong, but it was more about what he needed to do to make us more unite together to fight on common ground instead of being divided.
Do you think he honestly had a chance of that? When did the media give him a chance?
I think he could have had a chance.
Name one chance. I'll tell you the one time that MSNBC and CNN talked positively about him since he announced was, will you turn on the AC? The since he announced was when he rocketed Syria, the only time, and track that. So granted, I may not be a big fan, but he was a president under fire from day negative 180, whatever.
No doubt. I mean,
so how was he supposed to act? How was he supposed to respond when it didn't matter what he said? They threw shade at it. It didn't matter if he'd have came out and said, CNN, you're the most handsomest, you know, whatevers. They'd have said, oh, you're saying these guys aren't handsome. You know, And that's how it was. So he came out fighting, and I like that. I like that 2 a.m. he's working some Taco Bell out on the shitter and pops a tweet out that makes the world cry. I like that.
And like, yeah, I mean, that's how in his book he talks exactly about how he uses the media. And this is why I'm saying like he wanted this. He uses the media as leverage to gain traction and popularity.
Yeah, I dig it.
Hey, I can dig it. I can understand the way you go about it, but that caused a lot of division because like now you're prodding other people, like whether regardless is the media or someone, but like you're prodding people, which only makes them really upset.
I'm fine with that. What were you doing when you were out being an activist?
Saying, hey, I'm not for this specific bill, or I'm not for the way that you're treating me specifically or the people around me.
I like it. You know what? I didn't vote for him. Wasn't my guy. He lost me on gun stuff though. That's where I put my money where my mouth is.
Mm-hmm.
When he was okay with red flag laws, when he signed the bump stock ban, and when he said take the guns now, due process later, he lost me.
Neither side loved Donald Trump, the Republicans or the Democrats, and that's how I knew. After Rand Paul was out of the process, I could visually see, okay, this is going to be the next best thing.
You know who hated Donald Trump was the people who write those laws that abuse people. That's who hated Donald Trump. Okay, so all right. Okay.
No, we got a lot of comments here.
Yeah.
So we got to get
Oh God.
we got to do a fly.
We sparked it.
How much were you paid for the video of Ashley Babbitt?
I mean, does that include the entire Capitol footage or just like that 45 seconds? Or
I break it down however you want.
I mean, the day I got paid like $35K from CNN, $35K from NBC, and then after that, that's $70K right there. So then after that, I probably got paid another like 60 to 70 just off of like random news outlets.
Okay. So prosperous job.
I mean,
but you did put yourself in some situations. All right. Cash Kelly. Who's Cash Kelly? Is locked up and John isn't.
I
don't know who Cash Kelly is.
I need to look that up.
Okay.
Cash Kelly.
Go to the next one.
Do you get funding from BLM?
Oh, what the heck? No, definitely not. I wish. I mean, they don't support the Black community. You know, they bought 4 houses with their money.
What? No. Hey, I'm supposed to bring that up to you. You're not supposed to bring that up.
Hey, I'm telling you, I know straightforward.
Come on, man. Now, anyways, I've noticed that there's been, when I look you up online, there has been a substantial amount of BLM and Antifa distancing themselves from you. And it's been going on for quite a while, since before January. And I didn't dig into it, and I'm not going to throw shade because those guys tend to argue with people because they said, you know, your belt has to go left to right and cancel each other for dog shit, because those people who cancel people are big pussies.
Well, yeah, there's that. And like, tell me, who are these people who are saying stuff, you know, egg accounts on Twitter, egg accounts on Facebook?
Having a clue who they are. And I wouldn't know if it's an egg account on Twitter. Hell, I'm probably an egg account on Twitter, and I just get on there and talk shit.
I mean, an egg account is like, I don't know who you are. You don't have a face to your account.
Oh,
okay. That's me. I actually do that.
I have Giorgio Tsoukalos as my face.
Well, it just shows me that, I mean, first off, you're willing to talk shit, but you're not willing to put yourself out there and back your words with who you are. And then second, I don't care about a random Twitter account that has 4,000 followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who are you? Do you speak for all Black Lives Matter? It's not like the leader Black Lives Matter is coming out and saying John is, we just own John. I've yet to hear that. Where
follow me on Twitter. I only have 4 followers.
I'll follow you right now. Let's go.
All right.
I don't even have Twitter.
I'm boring on there. Okay, so a lot of people Okay, were you inciting? Were you a part of the incitement on January 6th?
No. Actually, before you start answering that, you did have a Trump hat on, correct?
Nope. That's a false statement too. There's literally a video that's been put out there of me outside the Capitol being called out for being Antifa for some reason. Like somebody on a megaphone called me out, and you can see exactly what I'm wearing.
Okay.
So you did not wear a Trump hat.
I did not.
You did not try to disguise yourself as a Trump.
I did not. If you're referring to that picture with the Trump hat and scarf on, that was the day before at the Trump rally I went to at Freedom Plaza.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you for clearing that up.
So were you a part of the incitement?
I was not. I don't condone that activity.
Okay. Okay. Some people calling you a domestic terrorist for money, wearing a Trump hat. So exactly what James O'Keefe just exposed CNN for. Fear sells. And I think that's mentioning the media drive to get the angst up, which it's going to cause a civil war, and then it'll all collapse anyway. It's fine.
It's all good.
It's all good.
I would say people are saying like
amping
up. Well, people who are like saying that, oh, you know, the media I'm seeing or like the footage that you're showing is like it's so aggressive, it's so violent. I mean, why are you watching it? Would you rather not have seen it? Would you rather not have been disclosed to you? Because that surely could have happened. I can guarantee you that. I can guarantee you that they would not have. Where have you seen any other footage of Ashley being shot? Where have you seen the talk about the officer who shot her?
Speaking of that, like, did you get any video or pictures of the officer that shot her? Because
I think you see his gun and a silhouette of his face on the video you provided.
You can see his face.
The crazy thing that gets me on that, if I want to ramble on that day, I have some experience in that realm, and there was a tactical team right behind her. Had he waited, whoever shot her waited 15 more seconds, his backstop might have been one of his fellow officers. And so I think that officer, I don't know. There's too much. I'm going to go full conspiracy. That was a plant. It was all a plant. John, you're a plant. It was designed. Bam.
I knew it. No, I mean, seriously, you're right about one thing, that there were two officers, the two officers that were standing by the doorway, like that were blocking the doorway. I mean, whatever they're going to do, they were right there as a backstop. They were like, they could have easily gotten shot, which I was more so surprised, but you can see his face, by the way. Freeze the frame enough. If you have HD, turn it up to HD, you can see his face. You can see who it is. No.
Yeah, it's ugly. There is right now, because of the media and because of the push, we stand on a vengeance justice system right now where, and I'll be offensive right now, whatever, but God forbid if you're white and anyone opposing you is black, because you will be crucified.
It depends on the black person for sure. I agree.
I don't think it matters right now. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters what happens because the black community has idolized these race grifters, these Al Sharptons, these Jesse Jacksons, and they will get you in front of the news first. They will get you in front and you will spout your lies or whatever. And then it doesn't matter. You will be tried. You will be tried according to what was said on the media and repeated on the media first, and according to how much violence is happening outside of that courthouse.
I mean, they didn't come to my defense.
You know what? You can argue that right now, but
I'm just saying they didn't come to my defense. We're at the Capitol and everybody's coming bashing me, saying I'm a terrorist. Like, where are people coming at me?
Are the police bashing you though? No, but here's the difference right now. You look at however you feel whether Chauvin was guilty or innocent. Take a critical look at how due process was handled there. A lot of new avenues were kind of opened up. I want you to think about when this settles down and think about if people get fair trials anymore.
Oh yeah, I agree
I
with
want
you
you
on
to
that.
think about that.
I mean,
That's something to think about, whether you want him to be found guilty or not. The reason process is important is so that you get down to that truth honestly. If you get down to it the way it happened, that will I mean, it's going to come up in court the next time.
I mean, he could get a repeal on his trial, or
There's a good chance that at the very least he'll get a retrial.
There's some pretty fucked up stuff. Even I'm like not for law enforcement, but I mean, there's like definitely some things that shouldn't have been said, and there's definitely things that shouldn't have been done during that trial. So, I mean, I think he might deserve that at the least.
Well, honestly, they should have followed process from the start. The judge dropped the ball. The prosecutor was kind of shady on it. I don't know, but
I mean, his defense was shitty, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Go back and watch our show with Brad. Brad's got a good count. He's a defense attorney, and he lays it out. Okay, man. The comments keep rolling in. All right, we're gonna keep it quick. We're gonna shut this show down in 10 minutes.
All right.
Let's field through, see if there's any. All right, someone asked how's your communication with BLM in Utah? Is there any communication, or are you guys on the outs?
I haven't had communication with them since Provo, so.
Okay. All right. Dave, you pick a question and run with it.
All right. Are you on any drugs? Adderall, cocaine, alcohol? Do you have a problem with drugs at all?
I don't have a problem with drugs, but I have prescriptions that I take with prescription labels, or my doctor prescribes it to me, so I take it as prescribed.
Okay.
Adderall, to be specific, if you want to know.
Okay. All right. So we're not going to dig in too much. Okay. We didn't have you come on here to cast judgment or any of that. Well, I didn't. One, I personally don't feel like judging anyone except for that guy in Provo who shot the other guy without seeing him. I want to judge him.
So let me ask you this. How do you feel that the show went? Was it what you expected? Do you feel like you got something out of this? Do you feel kind of like, I finally got to tell my point of view without any type of script or modifications?
I think it was a conversation between people, and we were able to find common ground, and we were able to talk through things that we either agreed on or we disagreed on, give our perspective, and I couldn't ask for more. Good.
Well, we try to be fair. I mean, I'll even bring a communist on.
Well, it's America, right? We all have our right to believe in what we want. Is that not what we're fighting for? For everyone to have the right to believe in what they want without somebody else imposing on that belief.
Hey, I believe in Bigfoot.
I mean, it's all.
I mean, Bigfoot is more real than communism functioning.
I mean, communism doesn't work, so there's that.
Yeah, it can't. But anyways, thanks for coming on. And you're welcome back. We
appreciate it.
This was a good talk. I do believe that there is a lot of misunderstandings both ways, and I honestly believe, and don't take offense, that you probably perceive your actions in this different than either they were or than the rest of the world sees them. And that's fine. That's going to happen. I perceive my actions different than they commonly are.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be something to reflect on and to take countenance for if you find that you need to reflect on that. I wasn't aware that our audience was so knowingly hostile towards you. And I don't know. I would like to think that you would try to mend some of that, just worldly. You don't want to be looked at like that. But, and I'm not saying you have to or casting judgment, but, were it me, I would try to figure out how to look a little more sympathetic to them.
Agreed.
But I'm not going to accuse you of doing any one thing, though. If asked, I will say you are 2020's COINTELPRO agent, just because I like tinfoil hats.
All right, I fit with
I
it.
dig them. You know,
I'm super Antifa too. I've heard.
Yeah, super Antifa.
And just so you know, this will not be edited in any way. This is going to go straight out as it is.
Yeah, this is live. This is what you said is what there is.
Appreciate
You
it.
know,
I would love to have you guys on my show as well.
Yeah,
people will give
definitely.
a good perspective.
Anytime. I would like to have you back sometime. Boil in. We got, I don't know who all we got coming.
There's so much to talk about. We just only have so much time, so it's got to be like another show or something, you know.
Yeah.
I'm down.
And it is nice to get a different political view on. Not that I don't know whether you have a formulated political view yet. You're still, how old are you? You're still in your early 30s?
I'm 26.
20. Oh, Jesus Christ. You'll learn to wipe your ass next year. And then in about 10 years, you'll start formulating a political and economic view around that.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of politics till I was 25.
Jesus Christ, 26.
That's what I'm trying to say to you guys. Like, I wasn't into politics, you know, like, I mean, think about how many elections I was able to vote in.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was able to vote in a lot. The only time I ever voted was for Bill Clinton.
You voted for Bill Clinton?
Yeah, I was saying he was my commander in chief at the time. I just voted for, whatever. Yeah, my dad's probably watching this. He just pulled what's left of his hair out. He's heard it before, though. That's the only time I've ever voted. I have one. Everyone seems to give a fuck about the president.
Mm-hmm.
President means nothing. Really doesn't. President doesn't mean anything.
That's right. It's Kamala Harris.
Yeah. President Kamala and Vice President Stumble Mumble.
How many times have I voted? That's the question.
I don't know how many.
0.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't think I voted till I was like 36 or something like that.
It's not.
I would.
Wow. Damn.
I would say, if you want to be an activist, if you want to be a journalist, keep being a journalist, but you need to steer clear from getting up and talking.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You've got to separate the two. Getting up and talking in front of the crowds. You've got to pick one or the other. If you want to be an activist, get educated on the subject. The problem with the Antifa guys is they've got the right idea on something's fucked up. The Fed's fucked up. All that's fucked up. But they got the wrong idea on the prescription for a cure. Right? They want to, they want to bring in some totalitarian, bloodthirsty, either state or warlord. That's what you get. So, I mean, BLM, noble idea, but it was born corruptly. And that's all I got to say.
I would agree with you. I guess I agree. I need maybe more fine tuning on like background on political ideas, but I guess I would challenge you guys to know a little bit more about organizations with residing under BLM and Antifa, because it would actually clarify so many things for a lot of people and yourself on how to differentiate. I don't know how make a difference between one group or another. I can't say that other word, but
I recognize the difference between BLM and Antifa.
No, not those two, but specific organizations.
Oh yeah.
Like what the Youth Liberation Front in Seattle. Have you heard of them before I said anything?
No.
I think I actually had. I had on your show, but I also had, I believe through something of Andy Knows I watched.
I think he wrote a book and he has some.
I haven't read his book, and granted, Andy Knows doing the same thing you were doing from the other side. But I think if you're going to be a journalist to be taken seriously, you've got to stay away from the activism.
I agree.
That's because then you get targeted by both sides, because then you've got the BLM side and them saying, wait a second, you're egging us to a place we didn't want to go. You've got the citizen side or the right wing side saying, oh, you're corrupt. And then you got some people saying you're grifting and all that. So you pick a road, one or the other, and you got to walk into it like that.
And you got to understand, though, Jared, it's the activism that brought him to journalism.
And that's fine. That's fine. But what it does is it poisons the well on both sides, because that's where a lot of the argument that I read online about you from BLM and from the left wing, I'm not going to say Antifa, the left wing organizations or people that said bad stuff. They said it because they felt, because you were recording and selling it and all that, and also getting up and speaking in front of them, that you were either grifting, like just making money by working both those angles, or you were egging them into a place. And that's how they felt. So I'm not going to say they were lying or wrong. I'm going to say that's how they felt. And they may have honestly felt that way.
Interesting.
They may have felt like you weren't on their team. You were coaching them to somewhere that they shouldn't have gone.
I guess it'd be interesting, because how many things have I spoken at that's theirs?
I don't know. I've only, the only time I've ever really watched you speak is on your videos that you put up.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I can tell you that. I can tell you this. The things that I've spoken at are either one, my protest, and I organized it. So there's no grifting. There's just me organizing and putting it together, and people come and they listen to me speak, right? Or there is where I specifically went to a protest and they invited me up to speak and said, hey, we want you to speak. Now, regardless if they know I'm a journalist or not, that's irrelevant. But they invited me up to speak. It's not like I just took over, came out of nowhere, the megaphone, and just inserted my will onto it. But I can understand a perspective from people who are looking in from the outside and say, he's grifting or whatever. But you should also know, if you believe in fake news in the media as well, there's things that are meant to say to defame, cancel people, that is just spread to be spreaded. If you're talking about President Trump facing that, you should not expect anything different in this situation as well.
Well, you're about to do a documentary on yourself, right?
On myself. I'm doing one on myself, but there's two being made about me as well from other people.
Make sure you do a damn good job on that. Make sure you're very thorough, and good luck to you. If you want to plug it, please do so right now.
Yeah, you can find it on Jayden X on YouTube. So I appreciate if anybody want to show support or just follow me along in the journey. And then there'll be a documentary that's coming out that's produced by Jade Sacker and her production company. And it'll be about the division in America. It should come out probably the end of this year.
Okay. Well, I
appreciate it.
I wish you peace and happiness in life, obviously.
Likewise.
Yeah, I would hope that just as a final message, if there's it would be a good idea, if you want to continue to be an activist and get a message out, hone in on particular messaging. What if you went out and was an activist for just a simple thing of just start out with the ability to have felonies knocked off easy? I mean, that's an activism you could do. You could go out, stand, in whatever big city, let's pick Chicago, and you'll get some pro bono lawyers that say, I know how to do this. I'll come stand with you. Next thing you know, you've completed something, and that's an activism that works. I mean, we have an activist friend. She's as confused as it gets on her economic politics, but you can't argue her out of that. But she is putting her money where her mouth is on what she's working on. And I believe that regardless of how you feel about anything outside of that, she's focusing on a problem and trying to solve that. Agreed. And I think if you want to be an activist, you need to do that. If you want to be a journalist, you should do that. Or you can be a journalist for something totally outside of either of those wheelhouses. I mean, there's shit popping off in the Middle East and Ukraine right now, you can take a ride over there and, you know, get some video. And no one over here is going to say you're on one side or the other because you don't know what the hell they're saying.
Who knows? They think I'm from Iran. Psychops.
There
My dad is with Antifa over there, and they've been working together. And like they came over here to train the militants.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh God.
Thanks for coming on, John.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
It's been a good conversation. And hey, you took the hate in the comments rather well. We didn't go through all of them. There's a lot of comments. I think
you'll get to read them, I'm sure.
Yeah, you'll be able to go through and read them. And feel free to forward this and share it on any of your stuff you want.
Well,
you know, whatever. And yeah, and we will you know, we'll talk to you again.
Yeah, likewise. And I'll love to have you guys on my show, and maybe we can have a conversation there too. So I appreciate you guys letting me on your show.
You bet. You bet. Have a good night, man.
You too, guys. Bye.